You're listening to an Anazao Ministries podcast.
Dunum, 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 dun 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 dun. Yep. You only need to hear those sounds and notes to know what we're going to talk about in this episode. Welcome to another Halloween drive-in movie. And yeah, we've had a lot of fun with this series, asking the question, are these movies that we're watching horror or not? There are elements that are, elements that aren't. Are they considered horror? Some people consider them horror, some people don't. I have some opinions about this particular movie, but yeah, we've talked about the Joker. We've talked about I've talked about Sharknado and those crazy bad CGI sharks. Well, now it's time to talk about the original shark, the one and only, the game changer itself, the movie Jaws. Yes, 1975, Steven Spielberg, Jaws. This movie predates Star Wars in 1977. So yeah, John Williams has that theme. And yeah, 1975, I was 3 when this came out. And let's pretend that my friend Kevin and I are at the drive-in. We're leaving the drive-in. Maybe I'm 3 years old, maybe I'm not. But I turn to Kevin and I say, all right, let's pretend this is the first time you've ever seen this movie. What's your initial reaction to the movie Jaws?
Well, and actually, the cool thing is that while I've seen the movie many times, I actually just got to see it on the big screen this summer at the Alamo. They did a movie party. My dad and I went on July 4th. It was great. And so I'm kind of basing it like just pretending that I hadn't seen it before that, going off that experience. And what an experience. It is just such a dynamic blockbuster. It is terrifying because it has that real world effect of like, I'm not a big beach goer, but it's like when you do, but I'm a big, like, I love swimming. I love going to the pool. Any kind of, you're in a body of water, it has that effect of just like scaring the Jesus out of you. And so it has that effect, but I am going out of the drive-in, what a cast, what a score. John Williams is just going to stay in my head for a long, long time. It scared me. It made me laugh at times. It riveted me throughout. It hits all the elements of what you want from a summer blockbuster, a fall blockbuster. That's what I'll get to in a little bit too, kind of where to categorize it.
Yeah. I think my first reaction would be like, it has everything. It's a masterpiece. It is. It has great music. It has great thrill. It has mystery. It has great acting. It has comic relief in the midst of tragedy and horror and gore. There's fear. So yeah. I think my initial reaction, I turn and go, what a masterpiece. Who's this Spielberg guy? 1975. I'm like, who is this young director named Spielberg? He might have a career in front of him. He might do some. He might be pretty good at this directing stuff.
I think he's going places. I would have to say.
I think he's going places. We should keep an eye on that kid. You know? Yeah. I think that's yeah. So yeah. Jaws is it's been around a long time and people have seen it, but there's a reason it has staying power. There's a reason that people watch it every summer, Memorial Day weekend or July 4th, or my local barcade down the road has a Jaws fest every summer. You know, that it just one of those game changer movies that changed the game in terms of how we see movies and blockbusters and how you direct. So and people have been trying to imitate it for a long time ever since. So let's hop right into that question. I mean, I think people know its backstory and Spielberg and John Williams and know the legend that is Jaws and the mechanical fish and how, like, well, we'll talk about it in a minute, but you know, that they're pulling back and not letting you see the monster or see the shark. And then there's the reveal that you're like, holy moly, that just happened. So, but if we're going to classify this, the question we're asking in this Halloween series, is this a horror movie? Why do some people consider it not a horror movie, but maybe some do? So what do you think? Where would you classify this movie? Is it a horror movie? Is it a monster movie? Is it an action movie? Is it all three?
So I think the best thing about Jaws is that it is all three, because it really cemented the idea of the blockbuster that was relatively not a thing at that time. It was interesting, because like you said, this is before Star Wars. This is before Superman the movie. This is before all the 80s stuff. Obviously, this is in an era of, heavy gangster and, movies like Chinatown and Godfather and French Connection and, a very like gloomy noir era. And then this comes along and changes the game. But what I would actually, so Jaws and The Lost Boys, two of my, like Lost Boys is another like favorite of mine. But what I love about both of those movies is that they work so well as both summer blockbusters and Halloween favorites. Like I can watch them at the same time. And there's a reason, obviously Jaws is set during the summer. It's set, during one of the big attacks is on July 4th weekend. So that's why when I saw it at Alamo this summer, it was on July 4th. So it has that, atmosphere of summer beach vacation being set at a beach community off of Long Island. And it has all those elements. But it does also very much a horror movie and a monster movie because, like you said a minute ago, with not revealing the shark until later in the movie, it builds that suspense and tension. And that is why so many horror filmmakers have looked to it as a major influence because it is a masterclass in building tension and suspense and having all of the horror elements that you want to see in terms of you want to be, terrified. And it does that in a beautiful, terrifying manner. So it has all of those elements. It has all the blockbuster elements. That's what it makes this movie so iconic, is that it fits multiple categories, and it speaks to just so much of like what movie going audiences look for when they want to be blown away, when they want to be immersed in suspense and horror. And like you said, comedy too. It has all of those elements blended together, and so organically too.
Yeah, organically, good word, because that's why Spielberg is the GOAT of directing, because there's screenshots and direction angles and hanging on scenes and allowing, a long dialogue to draw you into a particular story that someone sharing, whether it's Quint sharing his story of Encounter with Sharks way back when, and you have his mighty little boat called the Orca, some of the legend of the story is that they had problems with the mechanical shark.
Huge.
And so they had to keep shooting and do this movie without it. And so they had to get creative in not showing the actual shark, but building suspense around it, which helped the movie in the long run. And really that mystery box that everybody kind of strives after. I mean, I think that is what was a game changer in this movie. So I would consider it definitely within all three. It's a summer action movie because you have the adventure of three on a boat on the hunt, but it's a monster movie because there's definitely a monster that they're after to get kill the shark and just not terrorizing the shoreline and help the mayor, the villain who wants to like not shut down the beach because he wants to make money on, that sounds familiar around COVID and other things.
A little bit. Yeah.
And then it is horror because people are bitten in half and this monster's coming out of nowhere and getting you. So I would say all three as well. And we can't say enough about how great this movie is and what it's done. So that's how we classify it. But let's talk a little bit about kind of the legendary status of what this movie did to how people feel about the ocean and sharks among themselves. You mentioned it scares you. You're not necessarily a beachgoer, but in terms of large bodies of water, people get wigged out. And this movie had it wasn't that people weren't scared of sharks or large animals in the ocean, but it definitely sent off people to hunt down sharks and kill sharks and look at them in a way that's negative. So unpack that a little bit. You mentioned it, large body of waters freaks you out. People still freaked out. Movie.
Well, because I remember seeing it as a kid. Like, I know I am a little on the younger side here, but I'll be 31 next week, so I don't know. Some people call me old, but anyway, but I remember watching this as a kid in the 90s and probably early 2000s, and kids. This was before iPads, so on car road trips, we would have like little mini TVs in the center of the car and play VHSs and DVDs on that. So that is, to my memory, like one of the first times I saw it. And I just remember all those moments hitting me, even though I wasn't in the theater. It just like still had that effect. And I don't know, for me, one of them is still the creepiest scenes, even though I know it's coming every time. And it's like, it's such a masterstroke of cinematography and buildup, is when Richard Dreyfuss is going in his scuba diving gear under. This is not when he sees the shark, but the corpse pops out at him.
Right.
And it's a late at night scene. And when I saw it at Alamo this summer, before the movie started, the host asked if there were people in the audience who had never seen it. And there were surprisingly quite a few, even like on the older side, who had never seen it. And they were never time. So some were like right in front of me and my dad. And when that scene came on, I looked to them just as I'm like, are they going to jump to it? And they did. I was like, see, that's how. But like, even, all these years later, it still has that effect on people. And I love that. But yeah.
That's why it holds up, and Spielberg still, did a masterful work with this movie. Yeah, this came out in 1975 when I was 3. I've shared before that 1977 is when I remember first seeing Star Wars in the theater. But we had HBO and friends had HBO, and I do remember to go to visit family, and they had HBO. I remember 2 movies came on HBO when I was a kid. I don't know if it was 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever, but Grease was on, and then Jaws came on. And I remember watching part of Jaws and being like, oh my gosh, this is probably going to freak me out. What is going on here? My mom kind of scooping me up going, nope, you're not ready for this, and not letting me watch it. And eventually I did. We grew up right on the coast. I grew up within walking distance to the ocean. I can't remember the first time I got in the ocean or swam or rode a wave. I've been surfing and playing in the ocean my entire life. And I've had a few shark encounters. There's been times when I've been a little wigged out by creatures in the water, but there's never been, I guess I've never had this fear that a shark is going to come out of nowhere and grab me. Now, there are certain places in the world, Australia, South Africa, Northern California, breeding grounds of great whites where they eat and breed and all that. So, they're a different environment than the East Coast. But I haven't. There's been times when I've been surfing and the water's been a little murky and I've been by myself and I'm like, I'm out here all by myself, and your mind plays tricks on you. But there's been a time when I've been bumped. I don't know what I was bumped by. There's been times when I've seen dorsal fins and I'll be like, oh, that's a shark. I need to kind of move out of this area or get out of the water. And then there's times when I've seen porpoise fins, dorsal fins kind of go up and over, and I'm like, my heart drops below my stomach. And then I'm like, nope, that's just a dolphin. We're going to be okay. So how it portrays sharks, and the media behind of people hunting sharks or cutting off fins, dorsal fins for fin soup. We talked about a little bit on the Sharknado episode about the villain doing shark fin soup and all those things. This movie is not Sharknado. Let me tell you that. It is a little bit of a difference there. A little bit of a difference there. But there's kind of vilifying sharks. And same way with bears, tigers, lions, other animals of prey out in the wilderness that you could encounter that you want to make sure you're careful. But sharks aren't out to hunt you down. They're not looking for people to murder on the beach. Yeah, there are shark bites, but most of the time it's a case of mistaken identity. And they're not naturally looking for you for food. If they're biting a surfer, it's because they're looking up, and the way the arms hang over the surfboard, it looks like a sea turtle. So they're going after that. And of course, you don't want to swim in the water with your bleeding. But there's ways to be smart in the water. And I'll say that there is a great follow that I'll tell you if you're on Instagram or YouTube, Ocean Ramsey. She's a shark educator and works for Shark Protection. And she has beautiful videos of her scuba diving in the water with huge great whites and huge tiger sharks, and showing you how they act and their behavior and how you can interact with them. And they're not necessarily like, can't wait to kill a human. She has, it's a great follow, great videos. It'll kind of freak you out because like, how is she swimming with this beast that's the size of 4 cars? But she does a good job. Kind of like, this is what they are. This is what they aren't. Kind of Steve Irwin. He freak accident. He was killed by a freak accident. There are times when there are accidents. They are wild animals. But let's be easy on the sharks. They're not villains. This is a movie. They're not all monsters.
Well, and Spielberg has said that like he regrets kind of like the demonizing effect that it had on the sharks and the environment. Like I don't think he was like fully intentional on that. It makes for great storytelling. But the kind of mania that it caused, I don't he wasn't as happy with.
Right.
And so he's talked about that in the years since.
Yep. All right, going back to the movie, what's a favorite scene? You said that jump scare of being underwater.
That's right. Yeah.
But is there another scene out there that you're like can't wait to see in the movie when you rewatch it?
Let's see, that's a great one. Let's see. I do love just like when Hooper, Quint, and Brody all get together on the boat the first time, and they're Quinn is such a loose cannon, and he sings that song and everything, and like you wonder if Hooper is like or just regrets like coming along because he's like, this guy is nuts, and I'm not gonna make it out of here. So I do love that. As far as all the attack, like it seems bad to like rank the killings and stuff, but it's also
there's some good kills. There's some good kills.
But it's also like the scene when there's an initial fake out with those teenagers that they like, and they're like, okay, it's not coming. Then the actual shark does come out and kills one, and that's the first time you see a body brutally taken apart, because before that, it's more off camera, and like because the opening one, like you said, you were talking about tension, the build up, the opening scene with the teenager killed, you don't really see it, and that's part of the brilliance of it. But when for the first time you see a body just like decimated, it is terrifying and gruesome. And again, it still holds up all these years later, even having seen a million horror movies and, effects and everything have evolved. It's still the brilliance of the direction, the cinematography, and the suspense and the writing all hold up.
Yeah, and you get towards the end of the movie and you see the shark, the mechanical shark. It still looks weird, real, but now looking back in terms of what they do in terms of shooting the movie Meg, as a CGI megalodon, but they use real practical effects in the same way that Lucas did in Star Wars in terms of with aliens and those kinds of things. Jabba, Yoda, like they use this thing, and there are times when it kind of looks like a robot, but it's still big. My favorite, I love it when Brody sees the shark and realizes who they're up against, and he's he looks into the camera and says, "We're going to need a bigger boat." It's just the best, and that little boat is called the Orca, which great whites are scared of orcas. Orcas are there's no natural predator for the orca other than humans with spears. There's nothing else in the water that's going to kill an orca, unless it's injured or something like. Maybe sharks should go after it, but orcas are the prime alpha creature in the water. They would scare me more than a shark, because you just don't know what they're going to do. But I love this trio on this little boat, the Orca, that smacks of Millennium Falcon with different personalities. You have Brody the cop, you have Hopper the marine biologist, and then you have Quint the old rugged fisherman military guy, all there trying to work together as a team, and I just love that trio on this little boat trying to take out the shark, battling the shark, and it's just the best. So
and he can scratch a chalkboard like no one else.
Oh man,
my mom hates that scene. She cringes every time. But
of course,
which is understandable.
So good. All right, so if you were gonna rate and review this movie, Kevin, where would you put it?
Oh, I think it would be, if not a 10 out of 10, certainly high up. I can't think of, off the top of my head, I can't think of a single flaw. It just it does hold up all these years later as just a perfect blockbuster. I guess if you want to take any points off, it would be for the demonizing of sharks and stuff, and ocean life. It can do that, but as a movie, though, it's just a great example of blockbuster storytelling.
Yep. I'm agreeing with you 100%. 10 out of 10. The only ding on it is the way that people, as much as I love the ocean and the water and sea creatures, and I started out majoring in marine biology, and they weeded me out in the lab real fast, because I was like, oh, I have to go in the lab? I can't just play in the ocean and surf and play with dolphins, And they're like, no, you actually have to learn things. Oh, gotcha. But yeah, that's in terms of how it portrays sharks. But and I do remember seeing, I went on our honeymoon in Tahiti, and there was on the menu like shark soup or shark that you could eat, and I was like, nope, not doing that. Bad karma, bad surf karma. I'm not going to eat a shark because I don't want a shark to eat me. So there's no way I'm going to eat a shark. So yeah, super fun. Yeah, so one of the things we're doing at the end of the episodes is to reflect on Halloween, and if we were going to dress up as a character from this movie, who would you dress up as, Kevin?
I would go back to that scene I was talking about earlier and do Hooper in the like scuba diving suit in that scene. Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe dress up as the corpse too, but I think I would do it first. I've got the beard and everything. I look most like Richard Jarvis.
There you go. Cool. I like it. I like it. Part of me wants to kind of be anti and be like the mayor in a suit saying, no, everyone's go back out on the beach. It's good for our economy. I mean, that's a good villain there. You know, good.
The beaches will be open.
The beaches will be open. We have to leave the beaches open, especially if the waves are good. We're going surfing. We're not going to take people out. We're going to ignore this problem. But then that's kind of, I'm tempted to go that way. But I think Quint, I think like dressing up as him as the captain of the Orca. I just love that little boat, and I love what that tree on them. So I would go as Quint, and because he there's facial expressions and his shirt buttoned down and all that stuff is just super fun. So that's who I would pick. He's one of my favorites, and I think people could pick him out of the lineup. It's like, I know who you're dressed up. I know that guy. I've seen that guy before.
This is just a funny meme I saw recently, but it said like, hey, if you ever doubt the importance of local elections, remember that the mayor from Jaws 1 is still mayor in Jaws 2.
Fantastic. That's great. Yeah. See, yeah, we're emerging into a primarily political episode here on this one. We'll keep to the drive. I
just saw that. I was like,
that is so good.
Yeah.
That's a perfect illustration, folks. And yeah, we can talk about that. They made a lot of Jawses. The Jaws 2, Jaws 3, Jaws 4, Jaws 3 in 3D. You know,
I've never seen the sequels, but I saw another thing recently because Michael Caine is in one of them. Do you know? I don't know if he's in. Is it in 3? He's in
maybe 3. Yeah.
Okay, so like he was interviewed about it one time, and he said like, yeah, I've never seen the movie. I just like I was paid however many millions to be in it, and it was a 2-week shoot, and I used the money to buy my mom a house, but no, I've never seen it.
Yeah. 2 holds up. 2's pretty good. I do remember 2. I think the sequel, a lot of the same characters, that kind of stuff. Then 3 was the 3D phase fad in the 80s. And so they were just trying to milk it, but super cool. Yeah. So folks, we recommend go see it. But also be mindful that, not all sharks are villains. All right, folks. Thanks for going to the drive-in with us. We hope you'll continue to hang out with us on all our feeds and all our episodes. We're getting ready to head out to Theology Beer Camp in Denver. We're going to be at North Carolina Comic-Con in Durham in November. We hope that you can come see us in person there. If you're in the Triangle in that area, we're going to do a live podcast there. Lots of places out and about where you can see us in person. The mystery will be unveiled. We'll be no longer deep in the ocean. We'll be out in the open. Just don't blow us up with an air tank in our mouth, and we'll be friends with you. We promise. Go to all our shows.
That's, I think, the best ending we could come up with.
That's right. That's right. Don't blow me up, please. Go to all our shows, rate and review. We love you, and remember, you don't have to be afraid of the water. I'll be your lifeguard, folks. I'll be your lifeguard.